For this presentation, we will be doing a risk assessment on a biological attack on U.S. soil. It is an issue that we must be prepared for. We also must understand that our previous presentation was of a chemical attack in the United States, and previously we explained and we used the cartel examples and our lack of border security. Of course, many of our previous issues presented are going to translate into the biological side of things, as they're both chemicals and they're both substances that can be carried out by cartels. But for the purpose of this presentation, I decided not to include cartels and not to include our lack of border security. So since that has already been explained in previous presentations, I will be doing another two new themes that makes this presentation, in my opinion, better. Yes, border security is an issue. Yes, cartels are an issue, but we cannot use those items in all my presentations. It wouldn't make any sense. And for the factors that I have chosen, it's going to be transnationalism and ideology, as I believe those two components are going to be critical in our analysis. Transnationalism referring to the movement of things from one place to another, whether that will be chemicals, cars, information, people, animals, livestock, and such. So transnationalism simply refers to the movement of things around the world. And of course, ideology is what people believe. These two components combined is what makes a very high risk in this situation for biological attack in the United States. I have included here a picture on the left side of the US military training for a specific chemical attack, which I will say this is challenging to speak about because I have been in the gas chamber. I've received chemical warfare training, and we do have to breathe in the chemical for a few seconds, and it is very, very hard on the body. So the best way I can describe it is there's a feeling of breathing in fire. So I take this presentations very seriously, as I know the damage that they can make. I was only on the gas chamber for 1 minute, but of course it feels like seconds simply don't pass by, and I will agree that it is a very horrible way to die. And on the right side, I have the world map symbolizing that these biological agents don't really respect borders or boundaries, any of that sort. Once an agent is released, it will continue traveling. Now, for hazard identification, as we previously stated, transnationalism is the movement of things across the world. This will naturally present a threat because there will be things transported that we absolutely do not want it to be transported. So transnationalism is all great and good when we transport things that we want and that we need. Vehicles coming in from Japan, competing with American brands for who's the best brand and who can give us the better product. Clothing brands from Italy coming in so we can decide what's better, what's worse. Italian cars. So essentially, trade in itself is good. It creates prosperity for the country. The problem is when ideology funded extremist groups, not necessarily religious, because they can be lone wolf terrorists here in the United States, transport chemicals, transport biological weapons, such as this case, to be used against the American population. Now we have an issue. And over here, I included two pictures simply to represent how easy it is for cargo, for example, to be on the other side of the world within hours. We are highly efficient in doing that, whether that will be land, air, sea. We can even send it to space. That's how efficient we are. It's going to be expensive to send it to space, for example, but we can do it. And here I have included a picture on the left side of simply representing how interconnected we are. Very few countries have a completely isolated economy. Even then, places like North Korea, they still depend on China for trade, Russia up to a point. So no country can survive by being isolated. Trade is a necessity. Transnationalism, I will say that it is absolutely essential. It is a necessity. And this is why it makes it so dangerous. Because we need to move things around. This is where an ideology motivated group can take advantage and move biological agents around. On the right side, I have a map of Europe on any given day, just how many flights there are. Just gives an idea of the level of transportation that we have. So much people move. This naturally creates a risk. Because the more people moving, the more of a chance that one of those might not have the very best intentions. So this picture on the right side puts things into perspective of how much movement there is in any given day, which is a lot. Associated consequences, it is very easy for organizations or ideology motivated extremist groups to move stuff, either by air, land, or sea. Biological agent can be released on a major metropolitan area. We are talking New York City, we're talking downtown Chicago. The damage, it's gonna be astronomical. I can't even believe how much damage that will be on the population. It's hard to quantify such a thing. High risk due to a combination of three factors. Failed states have no control over what they have, and terrorist groups are created. This goes in hand with ideology extremist groups. They don't have to be religious terrorism, Islam style, but it can be domestic terrorism, lone wolf attacks, and so forth. Of course, point two, the world has an ever-growing supply network. So every day, we have more and more and more ways to transport things. Every day, we make the process more efficient. And every day, we make the process more cost-efficient too. Combine these things with the visa lottery system that allows people to have very easy entry to the country. And I'm using the visa lottery system as an example. Because, well, anybody can just be randomly selected from all the countries that we have. And I can see that definitely being an issue from a national security standpoint. Political-wise, that's different. But from a national security standpoint, I can see this being a big problem. Now, for our closing remarks, the risk factor will remain high due to a combination of failed states, organizations having anti-Western agendas. So essentially, failed states have no control. They allow ideology to take charge, and ideology creates extremist groups. That's going to prove to be an issue in the future. If it's already an issue. Our visa system is also highly flexible, with most people taking advantage of it. So we combine these two together. Most illegal aliens are visa overstays. So it's clearly people are taking advantage of our visa system. And over here, I have a picture to represent that. There's so many types of visas. There's even a diversity visa program, which I don't believe any other country has such a thing. But we have it. There's the visa lottery system. All kinds of ways people can exploit the system. And I think this issue, if we wanted to improve our national security, this issue needs to be rectified. It is crucial that we have secure borders if we want to improve national security. I know I stated it in my previous presentation, but if we want to have a high level of security, we cannot have an open border. And if we have an open border, we cannot have a high level of security. Both things relate to each other. And to close this presentation, I have my sources here from the CDC, from the Department of Homeland Security, from Congress, from Interpol. Some of these sources are a little bit on the outdated side. For example, the DHS chemical attack on warfare agents from 2004. It is a little bit outdated, but it still has very relevant information. It's a very interesting piece of information. And this concludes today's presentation.